Do you think a lot of people also feel like Adriana is bringing so much to the show and should get her mojito in this case? Do you think she should be taken from part-time to full-time?
Absolutely.
All right, randomly with Ronnie Jr. back for another episode where we today will be celebrating the Real Housewives of Miami cast members because why not? They're a great show. The cast is they have a cohesive and fun energy to them, and we're going to celebrate them today. But I wanted to do this with a guest co-host. So you've seen the profile up on Instagram at RHOM.Bravo. We've got Nate joining us on the podcast to celebrate the Real Housewives of Miami. How you doing, man? And also, what is it about this show that you love so much?
Well, hi. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate everything you've done so far.
Hmm.
Um, and what really brought me to the show, I think, was probably the Cuban culture. I said a little bit about this on my account, but I really felt no strong connections with my Cuban culture before watching the show. It was kind of something that I wasn't really necessarily proud of, and it was just, another thing I checked off on the any application form or something. But after watching the show and seeing how proud all these women were to be Cuban and talking about it every chance they got, I started to think, I was like, well, wait a minute, I'm Cuban, I share this, you know, ethnicity, so I should probably be proud of it too. So ever since then, I've really loved, every other word out of my mouth is that I'm half Cuban, Cuba, everything. So I really appreciate the show for giving me that.
You know, it's so funny because the show itself is reality TV. It's Bravo, and Bravo, of course, gets really in the weeds sometimes of things. But at the core, I really like that you mentioned that. And of course, your the page that you do have, RHOM.Bravo, very positive, very much uplifting to these cast members. Yeah, there's always shady moments in terms of the TV show, but you know what, Nate? I think you really speak to something. Previously, I've mentioned on my show, hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr., that I've worked for a series called American Latino TV for years and years and years. And sometimes, depending on how you want to receive a reality TV show, there's still some really great stories. Is everyone going to act great and on their A game? I mean, it's a reality show. You got to have fun with it. But I'm
Yeah.
glad you found the show. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You said you found the show during, March of 2020 when the world sort of shut down. How instrumental was this show? Because that's when you found the show, correct?
Yeah, I found it right at the start of quarantine. I actually was scrolling through YouTube when I saw it recommended was the season 2 intro and like the taglines and everything, and I clicked on it, and I don't know what it was about the visuals, the instrumental. I was like hooked. I remember seeing Adriana's like her little pose she did. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, wow, I need to figure out what the show is, what it's about, and everything. And during quarantine, I really didn't have that much to do, probably like everyone else, a lot of other people. And I, came up recommended on TV. I just thought I'd give it a try. And like I said before, it really gave me a new sense of pride for my culture, which I can't even imagine today what it would be like not being in tune with my Cuban culture and everything. So it really has, opened me up. Now I want to learn Spanish. I'm not bilingual.
Okay.
My dad was born in,
Yeah.
my mom was a Spanish teacher. I don't know Spanish. So
Okay.
I'm trying to learn that. I'm trying to
Yeah.
family more, my Cuban family. So I have the show to
It's
thank for
it's a
that.
connection. It's familiar, you know what I mean? And like no knock to any other of the other franchises, but like there is something really different and special with the Real Housewives of Miami. If you ask me, like it's also a very diverse within Miami culture, you know. Unfortunately, I've only been to that area maybe once or twice, and then I also went to Key West, which was fun too. But um it's just so good to see, and I feel like there is just such a added bonus to visually see it. I think this series out of all of the franchises. They just have such a wonderful thing to capture, much like New York City. You know, New York City is also good like that too. Like, it's a character. Like, I know people have said that before and it's a bit cliche, but it is a character. The vibe, the texture, the food, um you know, the loud decibel, you know, in terms of the ladies, you know, speaking really you know, passionately. I like it all. So what we're going to do today is we are going to do a segment called Flowers and Feedback. Okay, so Nate, I told you what flowers and feedback is, right?
Yes.
Okay. So flowers and feedback is because I noticed that, you know, we want to make sure, yes, of course, the show has got some shady moments, you know, anytime you watch Real Housewives of Miami, even the older seasons, you know, everyone's got something to say, and that's what makes it fun. But sometimes, yes, it is about celebrating the women. And obviously I've said that a couple times, but that's what we're going to do today. So we have a segment on deck that is called, let me get the slide here. We have a segment called Flowers and Feedback, where we're going to give them their flowers, each cast member. And if there's something worth saying that is a little shady, we're going to give a little feedback, constructive criticism. So that way the episode is fun and nice and all those things. Um, Nate, before we do that, you know, I wanted to talk about something that you posted on RHOM.Bravo the other day. And it was you posted about two reality TV cast members from a different show called Designing Miami. Tell me about why you posted them, and then I'm going to tell you where I feel like I had that same connection with Real Housewives of Miami.
Yeah, so ever since I was little, I've really been into art and all things design. My dad is a professional photographer, and so at a young age, I was exposed to, you know, behind the scenes and creating the right shot and everything. And recently, I've found an interest in interior design, and I'm pretty sure that that's the career that I want to focus on. I want to be an interior designer, and discovering that show combined my two favorite things, interior design and Miami, and my third favorite thing, Cubans, and it combined all three. So I thought it was the perfect culmination of all my interests. So I love that show.
Um, so real quick, and again, I'm gonna tell you how it connects to me with, well, not me personally, but like Real Housewives of Miami. So I had been doing recaps on my channel, every single episode. I don't do that now because, you know, gotta grow up and diversify a little bit. Not grow up like, you know, you could do it forever, but like diversify, add other things to the channel. Go subscribe. Yes, youtube.com/RandomlyRonnieJr. But the point is, Nate, one time I was doing a segment breakdown where the exact question was, Real Housewives of Miami, this reboot is so amazing, but if they were to cast other cast members, who's a good choice? And so I'm naming all these people, maybe some like radio people, you know, I come from the world of radio. So I'm thinking of all these names. And at the time, Netflix did roll out the show called Designing Miami, which, like you, I was like, what is this show? I'm obsessed with these two. It's Ray and Eileen Jimenez. And again, they're both within design, but they both work separately. And Eileen, I think, has a little bit more going for her, with no diss to Ray at all, in terms of, I think her family's also in the business, and she works with a wonderful group of women, all, you know, strong, you know, they do their thing. It's so fun to watch. And then Ray's like, you know, lovable, right? And it's just such a wonderful show. It's called Designing Miami, and it is on Netflix, or it was. And I was like, oh yeah, if they don't get brought back for a second season, like, somebody needs to cast them, is what I thought.
Wow.
And I didn't even know, Nate, and I think you were the one that had put it on your profile on your at RHOM.Bravo about that they are indeed coming to HGTV. So I don't know, round of applause for them. They are actually a really great reality TV show. It's all about design, and honestly, they're a hot couple. I mean, come on. So it's definitely worth the watch, because we want to support all these wonderful shows and cast members doing their thing. Okay,
Yeah.
Nate, are you ready for flowers and feedback? Okay.
I am. I am.
Okay, so here we go. The first cast member we're going to give her flowers to and a little bit of feedback is going to be the Cuban Barbie, from season 1. Her story goes season 1, she was on the show, and then of course things had went on, some real personal things season 2, so she did take a little bit of a step back. And she came back season 3. Of course, the show ended, and there was all those years in between. And when she came back bigger, better than ever. Not everyone loves everything about Alexia, but I think a lot of people do enjoy her, and she is authentically reality TV. Take it or leave it type of girl. So what are your thoughts? Flowers and feedback for Alexia.
Well, all right. The Alexia really is the main reason that I got started to get in tune with my Cuban culture. I'm actually wearing a hoodie from my merch store that has her tagline "Cuban doll" on the back. It's like one of my favorite hoodies. I try to wear it all the time. And so yeah, I want to see more of her Cuban culture. I want to see more. You know, I haven't spent that much time in Miami recently. I feel kind of distant from my Cuban relatives and the traditions and everything. So I kind of would want to see maybe some Cuban traditions or show some Cuban traditions on the show. I think that would be very cool.
So those are the flowers. Yes, because Alexia does show up. She shows up for this show. Like I said, take it or leave it. If you were to give her a little bit of feedback, because she definitely steps in it too. What would be the feedback for Alexia? What is she doing that's the most?
I feel like I love her. I want to preface by saying that she's one of my favorite. But I feel like sometimes she doesn't have so much self-awareness, and I feel like there are some times where she is a little bit hypocritical, and I don't know, I feel like maybe in the beginning of this season, I was so hopeful. She said, "I looked at myself, I saw some things that I didn't like, and, I really wanted to try to step forward with a new leaf and everything." And I think if she pursues that, it would make her even better than she already is.
Okay, so Alexia, flowers and feedback for me. This is going to be my opinion on Alexia. I'm going to give her flowers because one thing about doing the show, while it's a very hard show to do, you're getting your own interpersonal, like, you got to rewatch yourself, which is very challenging. The network, they maybe not put pressure on you, but you're under a microscope, and then social media and all these things. And one thing I like about Alexia, where I will give her flowers, I don't feel like she gives a care what anyone else thinks. Like when she said, even if she's wrong, by the way, when she said, "Oh, did somebody give her it was the last season. They gave her some type of document or whatnot that like
Oh, yeah.
kind of proved her wrong." And she goes, "Oh, what you want me to do with this? I wipe it with my butt." Like what? Like she's so like full of herself in the perfect way, though. And it is a fun watch. She shows up so authentically, and I think like a little bit of feedback for Alexia would be that hard-headedness doesn't really allow her to grow. And the thing is, like, when you get older, even me, I'm getting older, we all are. It's like once you're set in your ways, you're set in your ways. So I sometimes, if I could give her feedback, it would be like, oh, give yourself a little bit of an opportunity to try new things, and that's actually a really cool and fun thing to do. Trying new things is fun. I think it was one episode where Todd said, "Wait, you're going to do this for Peter," or something about Peter's new apartment, or something where she was kind of being the helicopter mom, which I get. The relationship between a mother and a son is really important. But I think Todd was kind of like trying to make it like, oh, like let him have his own legs to get things done. And she's like, no. So it's like the feedback would be like, if your own husband is saying like, he's a grown up, he's 30-year-old man, like it's time. She's like, nope. So part of it is, culture, part of it is the way she grew up as well, and I get it. But that would be the little bit of feedback for Alexia. But yeah, she's a fun watch. She's like a little bit the centerpiece of the show,
Yeah.
as they all are. So no knock. Okay, flowers and feedback is the name of the segment. Myself, Randomly Ronnie Jr., and Nate from at RHOM.Bravo are talking about these cast members, giving them their flowers and a little bit of feedback. All right, Nate, our next cast member is Bro. Marisol, what is your flowers and feedback for her?
Well, first of all, I think she's so funny. I think she's like the comedy of the show. Her and Kiki both, I think, are so funny. And similar to Alexia, I love that she's in tune with her Cuban culture. I think that she leans a little bit more into it than Alexia does, which I personally love. And like I said with Alexia, she teaches me about all these Cuban sayings, all these Cuban expressions that I didn't know before. So yeah, those are my flowers for her.
And do you have a little bit of feedback? Where can she grow? What do we want to see more from her and her storyline?
Well, a little selfishly, some feedback would probably be to unblock me. I think that would be a good first step. I don't really know what I did to deserve a block, but that would be my initial feedback.
Wait, what happened? I don't really interact with a lot of the cast members outside of like the ones I would have known while working in media all these years or whatever. But Marisol's one that I actually did enjoy. Uh I wonder. Well, okay, let's not wonder. Let's just know that I think I'm gonna add that to my flowers and feedback. My all right, so Marisol, flowers and feedback for me is gonna be she has grown so much. So as you said, you kind of found the show during when the world was shut down, March 2020.
Yeah.
And it's a great time to find the show and watch it, consecutively, binge it. I found the show when it was airing, those first 3 seasons. And there's two bits of flowers. It's a weird way to say it. Two things that I want to give her flowers for. One of them is the way she has grown. I mean, Marisol is, I mean, it's not even a bad thing, but was so under Mama Elsa in terms of when Mama Elsa showed up into a room, she gave so much.
Yeah.
And Marisol maybe was like trying to get her life in the best way. And I think she was, she was doing everything correct, but like, how do you compete with Mama Elsa? It's just even Andy Cohen loved Mama Elsa. I think there was a time where I guess Mama Elsa didn't really fly much, so they like had a PA drive her to New York to be on Watch What Happens Live.
Yeah.
It's respectfully such a hard cast member to compete with. And so as all these years went by, and then when the reboot came, I really didn't know, how she would show up. But she showed up. She is like on fire. So I
Yeah.
really like what Marisol has been bringing to the table. My other thing that I'm going to give her flowers for is, sometimes it's like, oh, when they're having their banter, sometimes I think people don't remember that Marisol, I don't want to say it was like running Miami per se, but like she is quintessential Miami. She was working a luxury PR firm. She was of the age group back in the day where all the, big moments were going on in Miami. And she was, I would assume she was there. So that's like a really cool thing. And I like that for the show. I don't know if you also like the older cast members or if you take to the younger, but Marisol gives me that like a little bit that like rich, that regal. She's been through a lot of things and it's fun to watch. So that's where she gets her flowers. Where she gets her feedback would be just that like I don't know what she's gonna need to do, and it's not her fault, but like somebody does need to put her full time. And so I don't know if that is one of those things where it's like, she can't do it herself. They're gonna have to judge, and they're gonna have to, the network has to make the decision or the production company. But I don't know, like enhance your chances at being full time, which I don't know what you would do. Like, what do you think, Nate, could get her a full time opportunity?
I honestly really don't know anything that she can do differently that she hasn't already been doing before. I feel like her and
Yeah,
Adriana both have been really, and Kiki have been really
yeah,
bringing
they should all be full
all,
time.
yeah,
Pay them all.
bringing it even more than some of the full-time people are. So
Oop,
I think
oop.
that that they really wanted to. I mean, I don't know. I don't work for production. I don't work for pop, but I feel like they probably wanted to stick with the 50-50 newbies and
Oh,
OGs
right.
and they've done it for 3 seasons in a row. And I feel like now next season is the perfect time to do some shakeups. And I don't know, next season we might see some bump ups or maybe some bump downs. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. And again, I'm having a hard time coming up with a feedback for her because I do think she shows up for herself. I really like her, but I wonder because I'm gonna bring it into myself. So I wonder if it's a situation where like I'm hard headed, Nate. So I know that there's been situations where I could like maybe step up or enhance an opportunity, but my ego sometimes is like, no, I'm amazing. Meaning I'm not gonna grovel for a situation.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I don't think it's a bad thing either. Maybe Marisol could get that full-time spot, but she's not expressing it. But see, that doesn't hold up because I think if anyone wants to be full-time, it is Marisol. Like we could see it. So I think the segment is fun, flowers and feedback, but I can't. You know what? Here's where we take it to. If you're watching and listening to the episode here, comment what is there a feedback from Marisol? I mean, I'm sure people have things to say, but I really don't see anything. All right, let's move on. We are playing the game Flowers and Feedback. Nate is hanging out with us from RHOM.Bravo. Um, our anesthesiologist. We got Dr. Nicole. What are your thoughts on her, giving her flowers and her feedback, Nate?
I think Dr. Nicole is the star of the show. I think there's honestly nothing wrong with her. Like, I've been trying to think of feedback, and I honestly can't think of anything. I think that she brings everything. She brings the wealth, she brings the culture, she brings the intelligence, she brings the family aspect, the family drama. She really has it all, and I feel like I have no notes for her. She's like the perfect housewife.
Did you question for you? Did you have that impression immediately, like, or was it something that grew season after season? Like, as you know what I mean? Like, did you spot that immediately? Like, oh, I really like her, or is it like season after season she's become that girl?
Well, knew that she was Cuban, and I'm a little biased, so I kind of already liked her before
Okay.
even watching the show. But yeah, as the seasons go on, she's definitely solidified, and like my love for her has been solidified throughout the seasons, definitely.
Okay. Any feedback you can give? I mean, it is a segment. We're just playing the game. You don't have it doesn't have to be a shady one. Or you said no notes, so I don't know what your feedback for her is gonna be.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything. I really think that she's
Hmm.
killing it. She's been killing it, in my opinion.
Okay, so Dr. Nicole, flowers and feedback. I'm going to say her flowers are going to be like there's such an enjoyment about her. Like it's like there is a fun, so you know how some people are like wound really tight, she doesn't seem to have that. She seems to be like really like fun vibes, like hang out, Um in terms of some of the it's interesting. Like she'll make an action in terms of the feedback. Here's the feedback. She'll make an action, and sometimes it'll be an action that isn't like it's kind of got a little something to it, and she's always like, "Oh, what? I didn't know. It wasn't my intention." And all I'm saying is, I mean, you're so smart, like, and you're so with it, and you're
Yeah,
such a good communicator. So that would be the only feedback. Like, it's Dr. Nicole, it is okay to be like, "Ugh, I'm not with it." You know what I mean? But I feel like she always, when she has a problem, it's usually more like, well, I didn't know, or
yeah,
that kind of thing. And I'm like, it's okay to say, yeah, no, I'm not rocking with her or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, she has really improved. And the reason I asked you that question at the beginning was because for me it was an instant. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know that she was a polarizing character. It's taken a little bit. It's a hard thing to do. The way they did it was really great. Let's get some of the notable people from the first few seasons and then let's mix it up with some new people. It's hard to jump into that. But yeah, she's managed to do it. And whether I think she's my favorite or not, there is a fan base for her.
Yeah.
And so people really really enjoy her. And it's I think seeing the story of like you said, within her mom and her father. Of course her father is not with us anymore, and that is sometimes I feel like reality TV, they always want to go straight to the big drama, and really, the words are, cutting deep. I kind of feel like the really tough emotional stuff, like with, interpersonal story, these personal stories with family, those are really what feel like you're watching a great docu-series. So she definitely gives that. All right, we're moving on to Gertie, giving her flowers and a little bit of feedback. Nate, what do you want to say about Gertie?
So, as I said before, I really want to pursue a career in interior design. And even though that's not exactly what Gertie's doing, she is definitely in the design and creative world. So I really have loved to see her, business side of her storyline and seeing, her design all these venues and all these different dinners and parties and everything. I'd really love to see that. And I wish I could see more of that. I want to see more of that as the seasons progress. And feedback, I don't know if this is particularly my feedback, but a lot of the comments on my posts about her have been kind of 50-50. Some people say that she's being too dramatic about her situation that she's going through right now with cancer. And I personally feel like I haven't gone through her shoes. And I don't know, I feel like you can't really say that she's being too dramatic because you don't know how it would feel. I can't say how it would feel if I got that diagnosis. So honestly, I think she's doing great. I think she's educating a lot of the viewers about the cancer process. And she said, um, earlier in this season that she, wanted to set an example for people of color who suffer from this because all the photos that she looked up were of white people or people with lighter skin complexions, and there was really nothing or nobody for her to look to for advice or anyone that looked like her. So I think she's doing a great job setting an example.
You make so many good points there. I mean, obviously, because you are engaged with RHOM.Bravo, yeah, you probably get a lot of different viewpoints. The thing about it is, it's a reality TV show, and I feel like sometimes the fan base just gets so excited about everything and like really pick it apart in a way that, like, ultimately, if you can have something that is a storyline that is so meaningful and challenging to you, and you can demonstrate that by way of this platform, it's a good thing. I think, you would hear things about years ago, like, I didn't really watch Married to Medicine at the beginning, and I'm like late to it. But I remember one of my friends said, she was like, "You got to watch the show." And then some of the examples she was giving me, of course, fun cast members too. But it was like, oh, Dr. Jackie, speaks to a lot of these issues that aren't always, being seen on a major platform like this. So I think, not that that's the same thing that you said in terms of Gertie, but yeah, like, you just got to take it for what it is. It is challenging. It is a TV show at the end of the day. But, if that message could be put out, that's wonderful. For me, I'll give her flowers in terms of that, because I don't know, when you go through something like that, as you said, no one will know until they're positioned with, a really challenging thing. It's like, I almost feel like if she wanted to take a season off, she could have, because you're just like, this ain't the time. This ain't the time for, mindless shenanigans while you're trying to really like go through it. That is a shame that, you said that there was some reaction that isn't the greatest. Now I like her. And this is not this feedback is going to sound so bad. Well, two things. Well, I'll do the bad one first. I just didn't like. Okay, how do I say it? Because I feel like the moment I say it, the reaction will be like, "Well, she was wrong." But I love me some Larsa Pippen, and and I'm not saying anyone was right or wrong. I'm just saying I didn't like when they were going at it, because Gertie's amazing, but like, I love Larsa too, right? Okay, but the only feedback I really have, what is your thought on what I just said? Because I know Larsa's polarizing personality does not always come off to everybody.
Yeah, a lot of
Should we wait till it's her turn in the segment?
No, I all I have to say is that she's definitely the most talked about in my comment section. I'll say that.
And they're not giving her 5 stars? Oh, damn.
Not really. There's some. You are one of
Okay,
them.
okay.
comment.
well, we'll expand that conversation when we talk about Larsa. Okay, but feedback I do have actually for Gertie, and it's gonna, got to get through the season first. I actually do miss her business being so part of her story. I don't know if that's a production thing. I don't know if that's like she wanted to show more of herself, and I think that's cool to show more of herself. Her family's amazing. But I agree with you a little bit, and this is maybe why earlier in the episode here we were kind of saying how we loved that TV show on Netflix, Designing Miami, which now that's going to HGTV or whatnot. Ray Jimenez and Eileen Jimenez. There's something about the viewing audience, maybe not everyone, but certainly you and I, that yeah, we want to see the business. We want to see, in her case, her throwing these fabulous parties and just being a boss. Like, I kind of miss that. And I don't know. I thought I heard in a couple interviews earlier on, maybe season 1 into 2, where like she wanted to maybe step out of that. And I'm like, I want to see her do all the other things too, but like I kind of miss that. Like I I miss being gertified. you know, that was fun. So she has a lot. She has a lot of story, when she brings up stuff that went on with her brother. There's a lot of goodness. There's a lot of really wonderful stuff with Gertie. So and she's bearing it all, and it's makes it a fun watch for sure, and a supportive watch. You watch and you're like, damn, okay, like, all the flowers.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Flowers and feedback. Randomly Ronnie Jr. We've got Nate from at RHOM.Bravo. What is your flowers and feedback for Lisa?
Well, my flowers is that she also is, I think, one of the stars of the show. I love to see her when she's activated, as I like to say, when she's, going off on somebody. I think she's at her best. That yeah, and I mean, on another selfish note, not to bring it back to myself, but she's been very nice to me. She's been very supportive of my account, as most of them have, but her particularly has been very nice to me. So I appreciate that, of course. And I don't know, some feedback, I think this goes without saying, but I feel like she talks about Lenny a little too much to her boyfriend. And I understand that obviously that's divorce is like no other divorce ever that I've heard of, that probably nobody ever will experience. But and I can't imagine how that would feel to be like fighting with somebody like Lenny. Um, but yeah, I just feel like time and place. I feel like maybe she should keep the conversations for her friends and maybe not Jody. Just I know he's very supportive and he seems like such a great guy, but I feel like I don't know. I would hate for this relationship to go by the wayside over too much Lenny talk.
Okay, Lisa. We don't know much about Lisa.
Yeah,
I mean, going back in the old seasons, like, we know the now, but we don't really know, like, a little bit of the backstory. But she definitely deserves her flowers. And I've said that before, not just obviously she had the big season, with Lenny's hot mic moment, and it really rallied the girls together, which I really love to watch. That season was wonderful, the way they were there for her. I also want to give her flowers because I think in life sometimes we see people who, however they did it, who have acquired like wealth, especially like a beautiful woman like herself, and we sometimes prejudge them. I'm just saying, when I watched her, I thought she was a sweetheart, even though she was in this world that does feel like, very detached from, hardworking individuals or whatever. Um, and she got her ways for sure, but I feel like she was a sweetheart. And if anything, her feedback, because those are her flowers, that I really liked her in the earlier seasons. If anything, her feedback is just how she's juggling with this big transition. It is a big deal. However, the one thing I think she doesn't always take into account is sometimes she speaks in a way where it's like she's the only person who's ever went through this. And she's not intending it, but sometimes like some moments could be condescending adjacent, and it's just like, I think it, but I also think that makes sense, because when you're like really going through it, you put up such a defense mechanism. And I feel like she's so lovable, as I just said. I would love for that defense mechanism to drop a little bit and we get more into like that fun girl. You know, I get that why she would be stressed, but like, I want to get back to that. And whether that's Jody, whether that's her being on her own, whether that's her driving a Toyota Corolla, like Lisa is amazing. And let's get back to that, you know. But anytime someone's life is, you know, thrown upside down, it's gonna be a lot. No, none of us will, like you were mentioning with Gertie. You go through a thing, no one will know what it's like until they go through it. So I
Right.
don't want to judge too harshly.
Yeah.
Um,
And if I could just say one more thing, completely reminded me that we haven't seen really any of her backstory or any of her family history. And I remember in one episode that she said that she, doesn't have the best relationship with them, and Lenny
mm,
and his family was kind of the only family that she had. And I don't know how practical this would be, but I would love to see a visit back home, wherever that home is, and see,
yeah.
some family connection, some family history. I think that'd be interesting.
And you know what? Not to exploit like the rawness of whatever that was, but more to showcase how she may have fell into the situation. You know,
Yeah,
if there was something that was really rough, we don't know. I'm not even making any judgments, but if there was something that was rough, it does showcase even more how you would sort of be a magnet to all this new world that Lenny ushered you into, you know. And again, she's the mother. She built, you know, she always says, I built the business with him, you know. I
yeah,
get all that. I'm not taking that away from her, but it does showcase when, you know, where you're at with your own home base and your own foundation, you know, something could come in and it could be, you know, I'm talking about love in that case, but it could be so big that it just takes you somewhere, you know what I mean? And I think knowing that, you're right. You gotta we gotta make sure we talk to purveyors, what is it, purveyors of pop, the
very
production company, because that really is the feedback. That is what we all want to see with Lisa. And well, I was gonna say another thing, but we'll let it materialize, because I got to tell you, I don't think this show's going away. I love that it started on Peacock streaming, and now is at Bravo. But I feel like it's adored by a lot. Sometimes I get a little worried because there's not the biggest push, it seems like, from the network sometimes. But either way, I think the ratings are there, and I think people really love the show. So I hope big thanks for them. All right. Real quick, before we get to the next cast member, give me a little update on the profile that you work with. This is Nate joining me, you know, randomly Ronnie Jr. Real quick, tell me about what the profile is and how it works and all these things.
Yeah, so I started the account in September of 2020. And at first, I kind of just accidentally fell into it. I didn't even know what I was really falling into. And I logged out of the account and I logged back in a month later and it had 100 followers with no posts. So I thought this might as well be something I should do. I have nothing else to do. I'm still in quarantine. So I quickly, and then it got announced that the show was coming back. So I was like, this is such a good coincidence. So I really try to remain positive and kind of not force my personal opinions. I don't try to show my personal opinions because I don't know, I feel like that's not what people follow me for. They don't really care about me. I feel like they kind of just want, to see stuff about the show. And so I try to kind of say facts or say kind of broad opinions and let the audience voice off in the comments or in the little polls I do. So yeah, I commentate on the show. I post throwback videos, some nostalgia from earlier seasons, and kind of everything in between. Anything Miami related, I am on top of it. Even if it's not the Housewives of Miami, designing Miami, like anything Miami, I pretty much will cover it on the account.
um, and yeah, that's the thing. It's all a celebration. Yes, we're gonna have not saying you per se, but we're gonna have our snarky opinions. That's the show. The show's fun.
Yeah.
But I like to keep it on a positive where it's like, yeah, let's enjoy it. There's no fun in getting so crazy with the situation. You gotta have fun with it.
Yeah.
So today we are doing actually, you know what I'm gonna do? We just plugged your work, so we should also plug my work. And if you ever wanted to support me, been doing this for a long time, Nate. My career has had its ups and downs, guaranteed. So if you did want to support me, here is how you could do it.
Well, hello there. Thank you for watching and supporting the show with my good friend, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Who the hell am I? Great question. My name is Mark Rodriguez with Mastermind Media, and I wanted to take just a moment of your time to let you know about all the other incredible things this guy, Randomly Ronnie Jr. has going on. But first, before we get into that, please comment, like, and subscribe. That is how he grows here on these channels. But one channel you probably don't know about is patreon.com/Randomly Ronnie Jr., where he's got a bunch more exclusive content. So please check that out. But speaking of YouTube, let's go back to YouTube for a second. He's got this hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. and it shows all of his stuff in his days in radio from back in the day, all the way up to present day, and his new interviews, podcasts, just videos across the board. So please check that out, because when you think about content creators, there's millions of content creators, but there's only one, Randomly Ronnie Jr. Let's get back into the show.
I mean, that's right. He told no lies. And the important thing about that, because it could be looked at as like, you're so self-centered. The thing about it, and this is what's great about doing the episode, and thank you for Nate giving me the time here to do this episode. I think it's cool because there's different experiences, different, like, you wanted to go into interior design. I worked in radio and all these things. I think sometimes that's really cool because all of our opinions are based on our own journey. My thing had been working in broadcast for so long. I've worked in television production a little bit as well, and podcasts and all these things. So a lot of my decisions or my opinions are based off that. That's the beauty of the show, is everybody is going to have a different opinion. With that being said, the time has come. Oh gosh, Nate, I don't know. We got to do it though. We got to do it. We are talking about flowers and feedback for the Real Housewives of Miami. We are giving them their flowers and we are giving them feedback because we are going to try not to be shady whatsoever. So feedback, constructive criticism is always good. More of my stuff can be found at hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. And Nate, you can find him on the Instagram account, RHOM.Bravo, celebrating this wonderful cast. So while we're giving flowers and feedback, Nate, do you have any idea who the next cast member is? Do you have any idea?
I think I can make an educated guess that we might be going to Miss Pippen.
Larsa, clap, 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 clap. I love Larsa so much, and I know everyone else does too. Okay, gosh, I really got to like ramp it up, So once again,
Why don't you tell me the flowers and feedback first, so maybe I can
okay,
get some. Yeah.
okay. So again, it's all based on who we are. So here are her flowers. Much like I said with Lisa, it is so easy to see somebody who you could say, lived a different scenario as you. She not only did she marry Scottie Pippen, but they had 4 beautiful kids together, and like she really did play the mother role very well, I would like to say. And I just think it's so easy to make her in your mind so superficial. And I know that there are elements of her that do feel like self-involved because she does have a lot of confidence, but I also feel, this is just my opinion, I feel, and this may be based on my confidence, I feel like I'd have a ball with Larsa Pippen. I feel like if anything, she just keeps it so funky. You know what I mean? She's so authentic, actually, and no one wants to believe it, Nate. They don't want to let her ever have a moment where they can't equate like, oh, you're superficial because Kardashians. And for the record, I didn't really enjoy watching the Kardashians, but I love Larsa. I famously have said many times, Larsa didn't need the Kardashians needed Larsa. Now we're cooking, Nate.
Take, that's it. Hot take.
I'm having fun. No, but really for me, that's what it is. When we start whatever journey we have, there are moments where you're just so insecure and you're so like, what am I supposed, what is my mission? What is my purpose or whatever? And so I'm just going to tell you how I see her and why I like her. I know that there's been many times, like I said, I worked in radio it's been about 20 years now in that industry, different jobs, of course, production and stuff like that, podcasting. I remember a time, Nate, while I was younger in my early 20s, where I was so bashful about everything, couldn't get the confidence. And I feel it's really special when you could break through that and you could be like, you know what? I'm a good person, but it's okay to say I'm amazing, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You're not putting anyone else down. And I think a little bit like Larsa is kind of misunderstood in that way. If you really go back and watch the episode, she really doesn't shade nobody for the most part. She really does love herself. I'm not going to say she doesn't, but she doesn't waste a lot of time worrying about anyone else. She just happens to really like herself. And for what it is, I'm a bit inspired by that. And sometimes when I think about these cast members, I relate it to how much fun I would have with them. If I could go have dinner or even do an interview. Obviously, like I said, I worked in radio for a lot of years. I think being around a lot of people, as I've worked in the business for so long, you kind of could see the persona and you could kind of get a sense of who seems really cool to you and who would be like a fun interview or who would maybe even be a somewhat of an industry friend. It's what I feel. It's what I feel. Larsa gives me that. She gives me like cool vibes. She'd probably like Randomly Ronnie Jr. and it would be fun. That's what I think. I don't think she would be shady to me whatsoever. What is your thoughts on that? Because that was a mouthful. And then I'm gonna give you her feedback because her feedback is actually something I got to deal with myself.
All right. Well, I honestly agree. Trying to find that confidence and trying to, be able to say that, like, yes, I am good at this. So I'm amazing at this, even, or I'm, just proud in everything that you do. And I think I tend to maybe be a little too self-deprecating. So
Mhm.
definitely, I will give her flowers for her confidence. I actually
Okay.
really do admire that, her confidence. I think that that's something that I need to take in a little bit, be able to say, "Yes, I do this, and I'm amazing at it, and, I don't care if that however that makes you feel, I am good at this." So, I admire her for that. So I agree with you.
Okay, so feedback is actually it's funny. I said a lot of it as it related to me. Um, which even talking about myself in this way, I could see how somebody would say, "Of course he likes her. All she does is talk about herself, and all he does is talk about himself too." Well, if I'm not gonna be my own fan, who the F is gonna be? But
That's
I will
good.
say on the flip side of that, okay, the feedback is actually a problem I have too. Her feedback, which there isn't much because Larsa is the queen. Her feedback is that when she goes through a situation with somebody, she's overly explanatory. I learned this recently, even with talking to one of my siblings, because their whole thing was like, oh, if we have a disagreement or whatever the case, it could just be that. And the sorries could be like, I'm sorry. And they're just like, that's it. But me, Nate, you will find I'm always like, but wait a minute, but this and that. And I think that a lot of people instantly look at that as like, oh, you can't say sorry, but. And while that is true, if you're saying sorry, but to make an excuse, I really feel like in my heart of hearts, Larsa, and I do the same effing thing. This is terrible. I don't say I'm sorry, Nate, but with the intention of being like not taking ownership of what I did wrong. I say I'm sorry, but what happened is this, which was based on this and how I thought of this, and when you stated that, that threw me off here, and then boom, it's over explaining, and that washes away the apology sometimes. Now, let me tell you, I don't do it as bad as Miss Pippen or maybe Jordan at some point. I don't do it like her. But when I saw that on the TV, how she couldn't just like own the things. And I remember looking at it and I would watch because, we love watching all the other content creators and YouTube and podcasters and everything like that. Most of them would read her to filth. And I was like, but she wasn't really trying to like not have an apology, or that moment she was trying to own it, but she also wanted to explain how she derived at that opinion.
Right.
And Nate, I had to check myself because I do the same thing. I'm like, keep on talking. And it's like, just say sorry, dude. That's all people want to hear, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So flowers and feedback, Larsa Pippen. You somewhat talked about giving her flowers. If you wanted to add to that, and or if you just want to give a little bit of feedback, which I'm sure you got a lot of opinions, even based on what you hear.
Yeah. I mean, like I said before, for flowers, I really admire her confidence. I think that that's something that's very admirable. Um, and feedback, I would say that I think she, how do I articulate this? She goes to the jugular, I think maybe a little too quickly. And I feel like it is entertaining, but I feel like there should maybe be, and maybe there is that. I mean, like we watch an edited show, so we don't really know maybe what got her to a point or what like
Mm,
happened. We just know what we're being shown. But from what I see, it seems that it just goes from 0 to 100 like that, and there's
mm.
just like nothing, and then all of a sudden you rent out your house, and all of a sudden you hook up with every doctor in the hospital, and I feel like there should maybe be
Oh my
some
gosh.
steps to take. But you know what? Once again, very entertaining. I love the confidence. That's just my feedback.
Um, my last thing to add to Larsa, because of course I love her so much. She's like if you watch Jersey Housewives, I love a Melissa Gorga. If you watch Potomac, I love a Giselle Bryant. I'm trying to think of the other franchises. Luann is amazing. Jessel from New York. I just got my favorites, and for what it is, Larsa isn't like my only favorite. I think Miami's got a really well-rounded cast, but I really like her. It's time for some feedback to the fan base. Nate, why is everybody actually, it's not really feedback, but you can answer the question. Why is everybody so in her business about her physicality? Like, why, even if she did, evolve, what's the problem with that? Like, I honestly don't know. Is it because they ask her and she's like, oh yeah, it's just squats? Is that what it is? Is that really what it is?
I think that um, the people in my comments, which are many who have this opinion, I think I can't speak for them for sure, but what I think is that they probably don't like her based on other qualities
Mm.
or something else. And I think that her uh, metamorphosis into 2023 Larsa, I think
Yes.
is like an easy target for people who already
Okay.
don't like her to go to. So I think that if she was, the number one fan favorite housewife of all time, I feel like they wouldn't have a problem with it. But since she's a little controversial, I think those who don't like her see that as an easy target to go to and make no, they don't forget to comment on it every time, every post. So,
It's a little ridiculous. It is, but you make a point. If you don't like a cast member, you don't like their actions, and they're saying something to your favorite cast member, yes, the easiest thing is like, oh, you don't even look like what you used to look like in season one. And by the way, I do think she does look the same. It's just people do change. I mean, let me tell you right
yeah,
now, Nate, the money could always grow, right? And my career could always enhance. And the beauty that I am today, drink it in. Yes. When things go good, there will be a chin implant. Yes. The waistline will be like this. Yes, it will. I just feel like what I'm saying is that can't dictate why you think somebody is phony. That is just how they rock. You know what I mean? That is just how they create their own version of self-love. You know what I mean? Like it's just the same way I think I wouldn't knock anyone who if they, let's say, had other priorities and let their body go. I've struggled with weight. It's like I like wherever anyone wants to go, it's more how they treat people. And to me, and this is maybe where I won't say wrong, but where people disagree with me is that I don't think she in in all actuality, in real life, I don't think she treats people bad. I don't. I think she's actually cool. In the words of Larsa, I feel like you notice she always says that. I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like I feel like I'm like a fun girl. And honestly, you could laugh at that because that is kind of funny. Oh, Larsa. I feel like she is a fun girl. I feel like she is. I feel like she is. And even if that's because you did, rock out with a world-class athlete, the biggest family in, I guess, pop culture, they also wanted to befriend you for all those years. And obviously it's not where it used to be. But also she's a fun girl. So why wouldn't people want to be around her? There's I can't I can't do it anymore. Larsa is my one of my favorites, and I feel like I'm going on, and I'm trying to make a case for her because I don't like when people don't like her. But you know what? It's a great show. Real Housewives of Miami has something for everybody. Okay, Nate, back to you on this next one. So, flowers and feedback is the name of the segment where we're going to give flowers and a little bit of feedback to the cast members. The next one, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about good old Adriana. Season 1, 2, and 3, all those years away, and then she became a part-timer. Oh, that is shocking. What do you think?
Yeah, I remember I got the announcement. It was October 30th, the cast announcement, and it said all the cast members, and then it said joined by Adriana Demora, Marisol Patton, Key Brett, and I was like, ah, like, I'm still shocked. I'm honestly still shocked. I feel like she brings so much. She has so many things going on. I don't know if you could tell the way you are for Larsa and for Adriana, but she,
Oh, really? I had
yeah,
no idea.
I will blindly defend her.
Adriana.
Yeah, to the end of the earth. Adriana is like mine.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know, she has I don't know if she still does this actually, but she had the art dealing going on,
Mhm.
which I love to see. As I've said many times on this podcast, that I love art, interior
Design.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah, so seeing her in that field, I love to see her singing career, her like family, her son. Where's her son? I want to see her son.
Mhm.
And you know, I just feel she has so much going for her, and I don't know why she is a friend of. It's like it gets me a little upset, but who knows? Next season, I'm always praying. I always have a post scheduled or like drafted that's saying Adriana is officially full time. I have it ready. All I have to do is click post. It's all set up.
You hear that, purveyors of pop? You hear that, Bravo? Um, well, do you think that's a opinion by you, or do you think a lot of people also feel like Adriana is bringing so much to the show and should get her mojito in this case? Do you think she should be taken from part time to full time?
Absolutely. I do think definitely she should be full time. I feel like she's really worked for it, but all the friends have worked for it, and
Mhm.
I make my dad watch the show with me sometimes, and he always says, "Poor Marisol, poor Adriana." They're I don't know the expression, like trailing them along, I guess. Like
Mm,
I kind of think maybe that there's some method to that. There's some strategy to that. I feel like the fact that they're friends of and they all want to be full time makes them
yeah.
work that much harder to throw that drink or like sing that song or do
Oh
whatever
no. Yeah.
they yeah.
I guess the $1,000,000 question, Nate, is who wants it more, Marisol or Adriana, to go from part time to full time? In my opinion, I think it's Adriana. And I'm going to tell you why. I think it's Adriana because she just wants to be on the damn show at all times. She would film all year long if she could. Whereas Marisol, I think, yes, who doesn't want that bump in the paycheck? Who doesn't want even the I guess the status of it or whatever, or the opportunity? But with Marisol, I feel like she's really done it well. And I think I guess they all say it up until they become full time, but I do think that Marlo had a point from Atlanta where you kind of can with this show kind of come in, make an impact, and then also build out all your other businesses and such, and you know, notoriety or whatever it is that you're trying to do. And I think Marisol has really learned how to do it. And you don't necessarily need to have all the attention on you. Sometimes, you know, all that attention could be, you know, where it gets into stories about marriages and finances. So Marisol, I think, while she would love to be, and she deserves it, I think if you were to put money on it, is Adriana. She wants this. Okay, I'm gonna do flowers and feedback, but I'm gonna let you wrap up first. Just whatever you have to say about her, because my flowers and feedback is actually quite interesting with Adriana.
Okay, I'm excited to hear it. But yeah, so flowers, I said everything I needed to say. I like everything. She just brings it. I don't have the words to even articulate it, but she brings it. I'm just gonna leave that there. Feedback, I feel like now I'm talking like Larsa, but I
I
feel
feel
like
like
I how can I say that differently? I think that's not really better, but I think that she sometimes prioritizes the show over her friendships. And I feel like sometimes she cares more about making a good show, which she does. And she kind of, or maybe it's in the moment at least, she doesn't care or doesn't recognize that she may be burning some bridges. And I don't know, I wish that her and Alexia could get back to the friendship that they had. And I feel like she wants that too, but I think she wants to have a good show more. So I think that's her feedback. Maybe try to balance it out a little bit. And one thing you said earlier about, you know, making an impact and then making a whole brand from it, like with Marlo said, I think she's not in this segment because she's not a housewife anymore, but I think that Anna Kinkosas really has done a good job with that. I mean, she was on one season in 2012, and she has made this whole brand, this whole like enterprise with Skinny Latina. And you know, I'm not to just go on follower count, but she has more followers than some of the housewives that are on the show today have. So I don't know how she did it. Maybe it's magic, but I want to give her flowers for that. But anyway, we go back to Adriana.
Real quick before you do, no, Anna is actually quite amazing. I agree. Yeah, she does fall on the side. I also thought she did a little bit of season 3. I don't,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
but season 2, she was definitely present, but she falls on the side of somewhat of an embarrassing moment, even though she was, you know, at a higher frequency, let's say, by saying, I feel like my brain cells are being depleted. And then
Yeah.
well, who invited you? You know, she definitely sometimes I think is almost too cool for the show. Not like she thinks that she's too cool. I just think she has a lot to bring to the table that, like, sometimes the show isn't really about the amazingness, you know. But you are right. She's made a lot out of it, you know. And I remember really getting I had done a recap series at AfterBuzz where we would talk about the shows rather, and one of the co-hosts ended up doing a show in Miami as a television host with her. This was Richie Sky is his name. He's wonderful in the space. And I remember when he did that show, or when he went to go do that show, for the year that he had done it, I remembered, like, of course you always want to support the people you work with. And so I'd watch it. I'm like, oh my God, like, he's doing a great job, but she was doing a great job too. So I think she like really gets it. Even if on the show she makes her little guest appearances or whatever, and it's not like epic reality TV, I think business wise, she really gets it. So I agree with you on that. Back to flowers and feedback. We're talking about Adriana. You've obviously given flowers. Can you give feedback? Is there anything Adriana could improve in your opinion? And then I'll weigh in on my opinion.
Yeah, I think that, like I said before, I think she should prioritize her friendships more. We saw this season that maybe there's some tension between her and Julia, and like her walking out of her house, storming off, saying she doesn't want to lose a friend over this. And I don't know, I would hate to see another friendship of hers fall by the wayside. So I think that she should maybe focus less on making a good show, even though she has been carrying it on her back, in my opinion. I think she should maybe try to maintain the friendships and care less about making a good storyline, making a good show.
Good point. Good point, actually. Very good points, actually. So, you know what I just realized? Adriana is my Larsa to, not to you. You didn't really have anything bad to say about Larsa, but you know, there's obviously opinions. Whereas, like, what I'm saying is Adriana gets under my skin, but I also understand why. And I also am like, she is so important to be there. But let's focus on the positive first. So, flowers and feedback is the name of the segment. Let's talk about Adriana. A couple things. So actually a lot of things I like about her. For one, she you know, the show doesn't go on if season 1, 2, and 3 aren't amazing. Didn't love the bending of the truth with Leah, but we'll let that pass. But you know, when I think of her, there's a couple things. It's really funny. While she gets under my skin and she's almost like not one of my favorites, I also could say all these things about her, and that is, for one, she's, I believe, the eldest on the cast, and just to even show up for yourself, and you know, aging is very difficult in quote unquote Hollywood. And so she's such a beautiful woman. She speaks 5 languages. She's very cultured. You mentioned earlier, art collector, all of these really amazing things. And then, as if that's not good enough, she's like, okay, and yes, is it going to be a top 10 hit or whatever the case? I don't care. She puts herself out there with the music, but it gets better. She had, however this worked out, you're getting Gloria and Emilio on this show with Adriana, like cool points for eternity in terms of that. Like, that's when you talk about you love the show and Miami and the culture and the vibe, like, you're going to sit there and Emilio is going to sort of co-sign, even if he doesn't really co-sign on the music, but it's just like, you know, support. I don't care. Adriana did that. We have got to give her flowers for that. She really, really did that. Now I can't wait to say what I want to give her feedback on. She just drives me nuts, Nate. She drives me nuts. She drives me nuts because I feel like she drives me nuts in a way that, like, again, Larsa drives people, you know, nuts. Like, you know, they don't think she knows how to act or whatever the case. I feel like that's what Adriana does. On one hand, she'll do the very sympathetic, like, oh, you know, if something were to happen to me, you know, no one would find me for days. And you really feel for her with her stories sometimes. Very animated woman. And then she takes that wonderful, like, wow, I really sympathize with her, you know, and I want the best for her. I want her, you know, to fall in love again. And yes, I'd love to learn more about her, you know, her son, and, you know, where his life, you know, evolved to. But then she brings such negative energy sometimes to the show, you know, and doesn't even take accountability with it. My feedback would be like, come on, or as Marisol says, ay, por favor. How are you going to go link up with her ex and make it like, you know, it's cool, or like it is what it is? There are some things that you do actions, you know, action wise, your actions are like kind of lame. So I have the hardest time watching her because I could see the goodness of her. I mean, I just said all these wonderful things.
Yeah.
But then it's like, how does she flip up so quickly? How does she have like a mean side? Just it's in there. It's like you can see it. So I would love to see more. Make a music video called Fire. Hire the fun and awesome director and let it be, you know, camp basically. Like, I love all of it. I'm eating it all up, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some feedback there. I guess I'll leave it at that. But you know, she cool. I think moving on to her bestie. Okay, flowers and feedback. What do you think about Julia?
Julia, I think she's having such an amazing, you know, her season 6 has been her best season so far.
She's constantly growing. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's could be a flower for her. She's kind of her constant growth. And also, I think she brings a sense of realness to the show. Like, I feel like some of the other cast members maybe try to do things for the show. Not that that's a bad thing, but they just say like, oh, this might be a cool thing to show on the show, like going to this restaurant or doing this. And I feel like she just does whatever she wants, and she lives her life, and she lets the camera follow her, she doesn't follow the camera. And I think that she really, it just brings the show down to earth in an
Mhm.
amazing way.
Any feedback for her?
Yeah, I actually do have feedback. I think that she, as much as I love her down to earth and everything, I feel like she should maybe bark back a little bit more. Like we
Mhm.
recently saw Lisa say that Julia has 3 baby daddies and doesn't care about her children or doesn't know where her
Oh
children went.
gosh.
And Julia was just like, "Okay, I don't like." I feel like she should have just like bit back,
Mm.
bite for bite, you know. And I feel like she would be much, she would be a better housewife than she already is if
Mhm.
she, had some retorts.
Yeah. When we're doing flowers and feedback for her, I will say, I think her flowers for me is mostly growth because while anyone, when they do their first season, it's going to be, such a big thing because your life changes. But for
Mhm.
her, she sort of was in the public eye adjacent through Martina, who you want to talk about flowers. Martina is the flower. I love Martina. More of Martina, please. And so, anyways, to the point of that, she gets her flowers because what is that feeling? You are married to Martina for sure, and she is the person in the limelight, and then now you have your moment. I think it took a while for her to get her legs, so to speak, and I think she's finally and it's been over seasons. She's growing, um and if we would never really talk physicality amongst the cast members, but can I say I love the shortcut on her. She is looking regal, she is looking sexy, she is looking like a star. Just I mean, she obviously was a model and all these things, but um well, yeah, she's been around the camera, so she knows what she's doing. But anyways, her flowers are that there's a lot of growth there. I only could take so much with the kooky storylines, the goofy Julia,
Mhm.
and where in reality the story that was probably the most impressive, I thought it was really very captivating to learn because you're only looking on the outside looking in of what that was like. She has her children and they're making her sort of have this empty nest situation and how that just affects somebody. Like that was like very riveting television and how the relationship comes into play in a different way. I loved all of that, so flowers for that. Feedback would be maybe a little bit of what you said, which is well, I don't know, did you say it? Something along the lines of yes, not necessarily like she has to like clap back at Lisa or whatever, but I think we're seeing her question things, like in the earlier seasons it was like go along to get along, and Adriana is even though she was part-time, she still was a star of the show. And now it's like she's coming into her own. So the feedback would be more of that. Like let's see more of that because we really do want to see her opinion and it's time, even still there'll be those moments where she's like, well, I didn't know what Adriana did was going to make so and so feel away, and it's like, but you did. But you did. So maybe
Right.
a little bit of growth on that, but I mean honestly, I would have never thought gosh, this sounds bad. I would have never thought her first season was 4, and by 5 I was like, I think it's time to demote her. Like I know, and I would never, but just being honest, I didn't know if it would go anywhere. And it has, and again, she is gorgeous and I'm kind of into it. Kind of into it. Like I want to go see the little farm, and it's just there's something there. There's something there. Who would have who would have known? All right, so our last cast member for this segment is Kiki. What are you giving flowers for her?
So Kiki, I feel like she's been given the short end of the stick. I honestly, we as an audience and fans don't really know that much about her. So it's kind of difficult for me to say, but I think that like Marisol, she is extremely funny. She's like the class clown. I mean that in the best way. Um, I think she brings a sense of lightheartedness and humor to every situation. And I think that's a flower, but also a um, feedback. I think that sometimes she just says random things that like I feel like came out of nowhere, and I feel like they kind of distract from the main story. Like in the bus scene in season 6, with Marisol and Adriana going back and forth, and her saying like you're just a drunk and all this stuff, and I heard Kiki in the background saying "caca" means poop, right? And I was just like, what is like? Where did that come from? What like?
What show are you watching?
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. I think that is her flower, both her flower and her feedback.
Okay. Her flower is just like, okay, there's other reality shows that I watch, and it's always like, who is the confessional queen? And I feel like Kiki is a confessional queen. Like, she really comes into her own. I'm just like so giving her flowers for her, and even like whatever producers working with her, and how much fun they must have. Obviously she's much more three-dimensional than just fun and whatever and goofy. And yeah, I guess I agree with you. Like, a little bit of the feedback is like, and it's not her choice. Can we see more? You're like, I think there was a moment where she mentioned like, oh, someone was talking about a marital issue, and she was relating like, oh, I went through a thing as well. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, can we see the thing or hear about the thing a little bit more? So the feedback really wasn't within her. It's more, we're just waiting. We're just waiting patiently. I really don't have a lot of feedback with her. I think she's really shown up in a really good way. It'll be interesting to see where she goes and grows. And I want to say, this is actually more back to Flower, giving her flowers. While I love Larsa, we know I love Larsa. I talk about it all the time. I thought her comments to Larsa, or her viewpoints rather, like how she felt like, oh, I kind of miss, hanging out. And now, Larsa and, Marcus Jordan and that whole thing. I thought that was really cool, because a lot of times people, when they have that type of situation where one of your best friends sort of, starts getting really involved with, it's like a couple situation, you sort of just have to like take it on the chin and be cool about it. And there's nothing wrong with saying, dang, I miss my friend. And I thought that was really cool of her to do. Larsa necessarily didn't really care. Larsa, I love Larsa. But I thought Kiki showed up for herself. Like, it was like, yeah, that's what you do. You just say like, I'm not jealous or anything like that. Got nothing but love for what you got going on. But like, damn, where's my friend at? I thought that was really cool. And another flower is we're seeing even like on Instagram or whatever, she's always so vibrant with her look. I mean, obviously as a model. So I love the way you've talked about design quite a bit on our podcast here. I feel like she really, because she was a model, like there's just a lot, the way she plays with design or aesthetics rather. I love it. I eat it up. And I did say earlier, maybe a show that not everyone is familiar with, House of Style, was a show on MTV with Cindy Crawford. And yes, give Kiki a spin-off where it's all about fashion, and let's go to Paris and let's talk to the designers or whatever. Kiki has so much more, and she should be hosting a show that has to do with fashion, in my opinion. But yeah, no real feedback. She's cool. Oh man, this was totally a fun experience. Talking about the Real Housewives of Miami cast members. Nate, tell me how you feel about podcasting, about your favorite, one of your favorite shows, I guess. And what do you think is do you see a cast shakeup down the road? What is your overall thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, this experience has been very fun. So I want to thank you again for extending the invitation. I really appreciate it. And I was honestly a little stressed out about this. I've never done anything like this before, but it's, I mean, it's talking about my favorite show. It can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Like, I, I really, I don't know, nothing bad to say about the show. And I think,
Can you give us a little note on the profile RHOM.Bravo? and how you celebrate the cast members, because they are all really great, even your favorites and even not your favorites. I don't mean you, Nate. I mean just in
Yeah,
general, just how you celebrate. And it's really a place to support this cast, because it's a great cast for sure.
yeah. I really try to, highlight the highs of the show, maybe the fun times of the show. And even though it's a little difficult because they tend to get down and dirty, I try to find, like you said, I try to celebrate each woman equally. And yeah, that's what my account pretty much is. It's just a celebration of the show and some of my own personal opinions and interests sprinkled in there, but not so much of that. Mostly focused on Real Housewives of Miami.
Yeah.
And for a cast shakeup, I don't know. I think it's bound to happen. The production company made some sort of announcement that they're looking for other women in the Miami area to cast for a reality show based in Miami. So they didn't say what show it's for, but I think it's safe to say it's for the Housewives. And yeah, I think that 3 seasons in a row in itself is an accomplishment to keep the same cast
Yeah.
interesting for 3 seasons in a row. And yeah, I definitely think we will be getting a cast shakeup next season. And I'm hoping that Adriana gets her mojito finally. I think she has had her, what's the expression? She's made her bed, it's time to lay in it too. I think she's made her mojito, it's time to drink it. So
Okay. He likes Adriana. I like Larsa, but collectively we like all the cast members. Like, this show is it. It's definitely it. Definitely, like, the best franchise. No. All right, till next time.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.